Welcome to Denver Theory Lab.
Denver Theory Lab? Okay.
Denver Theory Lab. Let's do it.
Welcome to Denver Theory Lab. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Kyle.
Where we aim to investigate and explore theoretical and practical ideas, conspiracies, events, and practices from an objective point of view to expand our range of thinking. You can now make donations to Denver Theory Lab on PayPal at Denver Theory Lab, or you can contact us on Facebook, Instagram, or email us at denvertheorylab@gmail.com. Please send us any questions, comments, or topic suggestions.
What a week it's been since we recorded last.
Right?
I feel like we're living through the fall of the Republic, you know? It's hopefully not, but it seems like it sometimes.
Yeah, a lot happened this week. There was a shooting in Evergreen.
Yeah.
Evergreen High School. Very tragic. Some kid supposedly, allegedly shot up the school. And from what we know, he injured one individual and critically injured another individual
Before taking his own life.
Before taking his own life.
And did they get a motive? Was there any sort of manifesto or motive?
I haven't heard a whole lot about anything after the fact, other than there was shots fired inside the school and outside the school. And on the day of, they were saying that the police force did not fire any shots. So I don't know. All I know is supposedly there was a handgun and several clips were emptied by the shooter.
Well, yeah, you know, the little bit I did see, I haven't seen them give clarification to what they're calling his radicalization, but they were saying that the kid was radicalized by some extremist network, but I haven't seen them really clarify what, you know, branch of extremism, since there's lots of flavors of extremism in modern America. You know, I haven't seen them clarify what branch would have led him to do such evil and madness, you know. So
yeah, I don't know a whole lot about that. Also, same day, Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And I don't know, a lot of what I've seen online is either foul play or irregularities into the story, and just
the shooting
piss
and
poor police work and all kinds of just stuff that makes you go, huh?
Yeah, I mean, everything I'm seeing, it makes me feel like we're watching an MK Ultra playbook cover up from the government, where it's like, it's not, you know, I wouldn't want to cast blame on anybody and saying it looks like any party is responsible, but the one thing it does look for certain is that the government's lying to us, like normal, with their crazy story. And you know, it's almost kind of reminiscent of looking back at like JFK and some of the other high profile killings, where the narrative they give just makes so little sense that you have to be like, all right, well, what's really going on there? I just saw yesterday the exact site where it happened. They're laying concrete there. They're doing construction and laying concrete there. It's like, it's a week after. You would think that you would have it like taped off for some period of time, but you know, they're laying.
What are they building?
I guess just like a new stand for people, you know, in that little amphitheater for the speaker for whoever's going to speak there to be at, but replacing the existing concrete and putting new stuff down, which is just screams suspicious. It's like, you guys don't think you should have maybe delayed that project until the entire nation's not looking at that little amphitheater.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, where to even start with what's wrong with the narrative there? I think the easiest spot is the texts that they've come out with that do not read like any Gen Z person that I know. I heard Candace Owens, she pointed out an interesting thing. She said, just a little exercise anybody can play regardless of age. Just open your phone and check your messages and search for the word retrieve and see the last time you used the word retrieve in casual conversation. And, it's a business or law enforcement or like military sort of word. It's not a word that regular people use, especially not 20-year-olds.
Or you're talking about a golden retriever.
Right. But when you're talking about going to go get something, to say you're going to go retrieve it.
Okay, what is this in reference to then?
Oh, he's talking about going to get the weapon, So he was sending his lover these texts.
The alleged shooter?
Yeah, he sent his lover. He just so happened to send this text exchange that completely validates everything the FBI told us the day before and incriminates himself, and we're supposed to believe that he had the forethought to change clothes multiple times, at least 3 times, just to change into the outfit he was wearing when he supposedly committed this heinous act.
Maybe he was nervous.
Well, and then he stops at a Dairy Queen that's 20 minutes away from campus, which he's caught on camera there, looking calm, just eating at Dairy Queen. Doesn't seem like someone who just committed a murder. And supposedly all at the same time, he's texting his lover these texts and telling everything that he did. I mean, the text exchange is just crazy. I'll read it through it here. It's Robinson, who is the accused. Drop what you're doing. Look under my keyboard. Roommate. What? You're joking, right? Robinson. I am still okay, my love, but I am stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I gotta grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I am sorry to involve you. Roommate. You weren't the one who did it, right? Robinson. I am. I'm sorry. Roommate. I thought they caught the person. Robinson. No, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. That's interesting. He knows that they grabbed someone in similar clothing at this time while he's on the run. I had planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle still lingering. That's another interesting word that I don't think people use a lot in casual conversation with their lover to call a.
Sounds very wordy for a text.
For a 20-year-old, very wordy for a text. And perfect
why
grammar.
Is it super fucking detailed?
And it's perfect grammar.
Sounds like
he didn't miss a comma,
Nobody uses fucking punctuation in text messages.
He doesn't abbreviate
especially
any letters.
20-year-old.
Exactly. I don't, if I'm going to text.
If I'm officially texting a CEO somewhere, then I'm going to look at the grammar but.
Then I write YOU instead of the letter U, but.
Especially, and that's when I have time to do it.
Yeah.
It's not in a hurried manner.
And so then it goes on here. Roommate says, why? Robinson says, why did I do it? Roommate, yeah. Robinson, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. Robinson, if I am able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence except for this text chain.
Or the shell casings.
Yeah.
Or the bullet that they never found.
Yeah. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully they have moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding it. Roommate, how long have you been planning this? Robinson, over a week, I believe. I can get close to it, but there is a squad car parked right by it. I think they already swept that spot, but I don't want to chance it. Robinson, I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as soon as I got to my vehicle. I'm worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back Grandpa's rifle. I don't know if it had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace to me. I worry about prints. I had to leave it in a bush where I changed outfits. Didn't have the ability or time to bring it with. I might have to abandon it and hope they don't find prints. How the F will I explain losing it to my old man? Only thing I left was the rifle wrapped in a towel. Remember how I was engraving bullets? The effing messages are mostly a big meme. If I see notices bulges, ooh woo, on Fox News, I might have a stroke. All right, I'm gonna have to leave it. That really effing sucks. Judging from today, I'd say Grandpa's gun does just fine. I don't know. I think that was a $2,000 scope. Then Robinson said, text again, delete this exchange. Robinson, my dad wants a photo of the rifle. He says Grandpa wants to know who has what. The feds released a photo of the rifle, and it's very unique. He's calling me right now, not answering. Robinson, since Trump got into office, my dad has been pretty diehard MAGA. That's a weird thing to say to someone you're dating. You would think that they would know.
They would already fucking know that.
Right, so that they would know this. And since Trump got into office, your dad's been pretty diehard MAGA. What has happened since January that has made any Trump supporter more diehard MAGA? I've only seen people grow disillusioned. But Robinson continues. He says, I'm going to turn myself in willingly. One of my neighbors here is a deputy for the sheriff. Robinson, you are all I worry about, love, which is why he's texting them all of this incriminating information, apparently. Roommate, I'm much more worried about you. Robinson says, don't talk to the media, please. Don't take any interviews or make any comments. If any police ask you questions, ask for a lawyer and stay silent. So the FBI released that text exchange as their proof that Robinson's guilty. They also said they found there was a...
Since when does law enforcement release evidence to the public during an ongoing investigation?
Before a conviction. And they released these text messages with no date stamps and no time stamps. So we're told that this is the text exchange, and you can tell from how the exchange goes that it seems to, is spanning a decent span of time, because he goes through they haven't found the rifle to they have found the rifle, and then seemingly, leading up to
somewhere
him going
over
to
the
the
course
police.
of 33 hours.
Yeah, somewhere around 33 hours.
Which they were very specific to tell us that it was 33 hours that it took to catch the killer.
And so now, and we also know now that the FBI told local law enforcement and people in town to not share any images. If they had any camera footage, if they had any images of Robinson from that day, they were told to not share it. They were told to keep it quiet, to not put it out there. Why would they say that? So despite this, there's some, there's a lot of people online doing their own investigation. Candace Owens is one of them has asked people to send her information about it. And thanks to her, we ended up getting this security footage from a Dairy Queen that's 20 minutes away from the campus where this happened. And it's at about 6 o'clock the day of the Charlie Kirk was shot, that Tyler Robinson is seen in this Dairy Queen, looks calm as ever, just, eating ice cream, relaxing. And that supposedly is happening while these texts are being sent. So while he's watching out for this manhunt and thinking about getting this rifle and sending all of this, he got hungry and figured he would go to a Dairy Queen, which, it just, and he's has apparently changed clothes again, because when the police finally got him, he's wearing one outfit, and at the Dairy Queen, he's wearing the outfit that they said he changed out of. So we're supposed to believe he arrived on campus wearing the black long sleeve shirt. Mm-hmm. He got onto the roof, he changed clothes. Got to wear something different while you're on the roof. And then he gets off, he changes clothes again, just to change back into the outfit that he wore while he did the shooting. And it's so we're supposed to believe that he...
What? No. Why would you put
that back on?
Why would you put that back on if you were...
We're supposed to think that he has...
Definitely caught on video.
Right. So, we're supposed to believe he's got the forethought to try to evade law enforcement, yet he then texts his roommate a full detail, an incriminating detail of everything he's done. And if you noticed in that text exchange, the roommate never asked. There was no reason for him to incriminate himself. And so he puts all that out there saying, oh, my love, all I care about is you. Now don't go give this text exchange where I have completely laid out everything that I've done to law enforcement,
I'm sure they're going to try and make him out to be a martyr, like he wants to become famous for doing this sort of thing. But I'm still surprised by the incompetence of people in the general community. Mm-hmm. But I don't think anybody that was smart enough to, I guess, like a sharpshooter, because there was one shot fired?
One shot, perfect shot.
Perfect fucking shot. I don't find anybody that's that good a shot that incompetent.
Yeah, and I mean, we leave out that, of course, he supposedly disassembled the rifle, assembled it on the roof, which it's not, was taking time to assemble. Immediately after the shot, he runs and jumps off the roof, so he's disassembled the rifle.
No,
then he
the
reassembles
video
it.
I saw, the rifle was still intact when he was jumping off the roof.
When he was jumping off, he didn't.
He had a towel in his hand and the rifle, and he was kind of shimmying down from the roof.
I didn't
But it looked
think
like
the
it was
video.
still intact.
Well, I didn't think that video showed, unless it's under the towel, maybe. I didn't think that video showed the rifle. I thought they claimed at that point that he had disassembled it.
I remember seeing a rifle. I think there's plenty of misinformation or irregularities or inconsistencies in this entire ordeal.
Oh, yeah. Well, the most interesting story I've heard is that the people in this town, the locals in Orem, the story that is popular and circulating amongst them right now is one that Tyler Robinson might not be the actual killer. So the FBI say that the rifle was found in the woods. Turns out the rifle was found in what can be described as a wooded area, but it was in the backyard of near Tyler Robinson's home, near a chicken coop. And next door to Tyler Robinson's home is an abandoned house that the locals, apparently, who live in that area had questions about for just a long time now, because the house is set vacant and people would have expected it to have sold. And so the theory with the locals that's running right now is that another person, who may be the actual shooter, ran to that abandoned house as a safe house and would have dumped the rifle then, or maybe Tyler Robinson got involved with some bad people online, and his part was just to bring the rifle to the chicken coop. Just bring the rifle and leave it. That's it.
And now they're making him a patsy.
Yeah. Well, and then the people in town, they don't think the ones who have spent time around this person, they don't think he's someone who would have been capable of doing this. He didn't come off as that kind of person to them. And so they think that our government has this person drugged up in the prison. We saw in the video they showed us in prison, of him in prison there for him to hear from the judge. He barely reacted to them saying they're pursuing the death penalty for him. He barely reacted. He said his name rather slowly, but other than that, we get this grainy video. You don't see him move his arms up, and given what he's wearing, that suicide vest there, it's very likely that they have his arms constrained, that he is tied down right there for us to see him. And the people in that town are saying that they think our government's got a patsy and they've got him drugged up there so he can't deny what they're saying about him. And I mean, one of the strangest details to me is the fact that they told us he turned himself in, except for he's not admitting guilt. Who turns himself in and then doesn't admit guilt? And his father, we then learn, actually turned him in. His father, who is receiving $1 million reward from Bill Ackman, one of the big...
right, the FBI was offering $1 million for anything that leads to the conviction of the shooter.
And when that $1 million, Bill Ackman, one of Turning Point's big donors, big Zionist donors, had vowed to give. And the dad is getting this. He's getting $1 million. And I just asked myself, I can envision scenarios where a parent turns their child in for doing some heinous deed and says, "Okay, you've got to,
Yeah, but not with a reward.
I cannot imagine a scenario where even if a parent has to turn their kid in, who would take that money? It would seem like blood money. It would seem like how could you feel good about that money? I
don't know. Maybe they already had bad blood.
And it's not being discussed as much anymore, but the day it happened, it was discussed heavily online. There's a private airport near that university, and a plane took off roughly 30 minutes after the shooting from that private airport, owned by a billionaire with a lot of connections to Israel. That plane then turned their radar off, which is illegal.
Yeah, I have the plane that allegedly flew Kirk's shooter, N888 KG. Maybe it's a different plane, but there's supposedly It was owned by Derek Maxfield, who looks just like one of the security guards. Took off 20 minutes after shots fired. There's a reel that I saw that this guy's like, he says, well, to preface this, I am a very generally happy individual, despite me being very negative at times. I do not want to take my life for any reason at all. So basically like saying I'm not suicidal, but I'm going to say this anyways, and shows us several things about this suspicious plane, and the plane hadn't moved for 12 months
until it flies for this.
Until it flies for this.
If I'm not mistaken, they have scrubbed the website. I remember seeing that online. The website is now being scrubbed. So turning your radar off is illegal. And that should be the biggest red flag. If you have a private plane take off right after an event like this happens and they turn their radar off, we've got to have something there.
So the videos I'm seeing...
And it's just the person talking about the plane?
Well, I have that one. That's in our
it's
our
the video
points
of him, the owner of the plane, speaking out?
No, the guy. Trying to find a video of the shooter jumping off the roof.
Oh, okay. I'll see if I can beat you to it here. So here he comes. There he is. Here he comes.
Basically the video. He's got something in both hands, though. If you watch, he's got something there. He sets on the edge, it looks like, and then reaches over and grabs it, and then jumps, and then picks something up. It didn't look like a rifle. I guess.
Yeah. So that's why they were saying he broke the rifle.
But he definitely
down.
had more than just the towel in his hands.
Yeah, he's got something there with him, but
maybe it's his phone. I don't know.
But yeah, and this video takes place immediately after the shooting. This person starts running, so we're supposed to believe that he broke down that rifle in record time. And I just don't buy it. I don't buy it at all.
Yeah, I don't see any rifle in his hands. And why would you take your phone with you? That's like an automatic,
right?
That puts you to the crime scene, unless somebody stole his phone, took it with them.
So, but yeah, apparently there's this one company in that town that I guess almost everybody in town works for, and they make piping and that sort of material. So, so all the homes in that area and most of the witnesses we have seen on TV are all like from the same family, which is weird and peculiar. I'm a big believer that our media for a long time has been controlled by our government ever since Operation Mockingbird. So when we have events like this happen, the stuff that they end up putting out to us, I usually assume is fed to us by the government. So we got that footage from TMZ of him walking onto the campus in the black long sleeve shirt. That footage, in the Ring doorbell camera footage from later in the day, shows him walking down the street. The TMZ, I believe, also got. That footage was apparently given by this one right here, Tyler Robinson walking through the neighborhood. There was one of him just like walking down the street that they got first. And apparently just a neighbor who's watching the investigation, he got that and he gave it to the detectives to help with their investigation. And the next thing you know, this footage that's given to investigators to help with the investigation ends up breaking news as from TMZ, which then begs the question: It begs the question of why is somebody at the FBI giving this to TMZ, and knowing that they're feeding us the narrative, it just leaves me feeling uncomfortable.
The FBI is giving TMZ information.
Yeah,
TMZ doesn't request information from any.
They don't request it from
national
anybody.
News source. They get their own information because they know that most of it's bullshit.
Right. Well, and the only reason I know that this had to be law enforcement giving this to them is, some of the other people looking into this, Candace Owens, had reached out trying to figure out how this Ring doorbell footage made it to TMZ. She was like, maybe the homeowner reached out to TMZ and gave it to him. So she, reaches out and asks the homeowner, hey, did you give this to local news? Who'd you give this to? To any reporters? Just the FBI. He gave it to the FBI. And then this footage becomes national breaking news released by TMZ. So, somebody at the FBI feeding them exactly what they want to, what they want to put out. And nothing particularly weird about that. Somebody at the FBI who wants to, maybe have a little bit of spotlight. But when I add that in with the FBI telling locals to not share images and videos they might have of Tyler Robinson from that day, then it doesn't really add up. It's almost like they don't want anything to mess with their narrative. And when we read through those texts, he says, it's weird that he would have known then, but he says that they grabbed someone who looked like him. And we know in the messages between his friends and him on Discord, he was saying his doppelganger is trying to get him in trouble. So I'm not convinced that this person actually did it. And it seems to me that our government's trying to frame somebody. But why? Why lie about this?
Yeah, I agree. Here's the video. So a plane private jet took off 20 minutes after Charlie Kirk was shot yesterday. People caught it. This is why they're going to take the internet away from us, he says. This is jet N888KG. But do you notice how it's only made literally one flight the entire year? That's the only listed flight. The website they've already scrubbed. There's a building that the company is registered. All the companies associated with it. Again, there's proof that the registration is real, yada, yada. Here's the distance between the airport he shows to the private jet. And here's the guy who owns the jet, Derek Maxfield. His name is John, despite how upset I've seen. Oh, so the guy giving the video pre-qualifies himself as saying, despite how upset I seem, I do not wish to take my life by any means. So if I end up dead within the next few days, it's not because I did it.
Well, and Derek Maxfield has come out and spoken. This video got enough people on the internet asking questions.
What did Derek Maxfield have to say?
He made a statement and said, as often happens, unfortunately, in the wake of such terrifying and public events, a variety of baseless theories and suspicions around Mr. Kirk's murder immediately took hold on social media, including one that has unfairly impacted our family. That's what he wrote on social media on the afternoon of September 11th. But
well, that's a perfectly reasonable response.
Yeah, but
that's the only reasonable response that I've seen so far.
And yeah, he continues. Yesterday at approximately 1:20 p.m. Mountain Time, a private aircraft owned by one of our companies with tail number N888KG departed from the Provo Airport for Page, Arizona, pursuant to a pre-scheduled flight plan. Max detailed in an Instagram post. So as radar services with air traffic control were terminated in mutual agreement between Denver FAA Center and the plane, approximately 10 miles from landing at PGA, which is consistent with generally accepted standard practice when flying in and out of non-towered airports like PGA. So any suggestion that the flights by N888KG yesterday are in any way connected to the tragic shooting of Mr. Kirk are inaccurate, false, and without any credible basis of any kind. Maxfield wrote, noting that to our knowledge, no one associated with yesterday's flight has been contacted by law enforcement for any reason. So, I mean, it's a perfectly reasonable answer, but it's also a perfect excuse. You're flying into airports with no security, there's nobody watching, and we just got to trust you. And yeah, like the guy pointed out, that plane hadn't flown in a year, so what a coinky-dink, you know? Mm-hmm. You know? So, and it landed at another small airport without a tower.
Tell me about the wife and her statement. So I thought that was very weird too, because she seemed incredibly stressed, which anybody would be
in that moment.
And it was what, hours, less than a day after?
Well, I think it was. I don't know if it was a day after. I'm not sure if it was a full 24 hours after. But it was she. Erica Kirk.
Was it prior to catching the suspect, supposedly?
No, it was. I believe it was around the same time. I want to say a little bit, maybe a little after. But she came out in all white, and she's sitting in.
She's on all white
in his office where he would host his podcast sometimes.
Stood in front of
a podium, a lectern, yeah, and with white walls. It's it sent weird visual messages. Wearing all white is not what one expects after someone loses their husband. So, and the podium had the Turning Point USA symbol on it. So it was a marketed statement. It was a branded statement. It's not just the statement of a grieving widow. It was the statement from Turning Point USA, which is interesting. Of course, her husband ran and founded that organization, so I don't expect her to want to see it go away, but it's just rather quick to see a branded statement and to see someone come out in all white, being that she wasn't in the spotlight as much before. So, and then what's more peculiar is people are now questioning her statement that was her more recent statement played on Fox News. So it's now been announced that Erica Trump will take the helm at Turning Point USA.
Erica Kirk.
Erica Kirk. I said Erica Trump.
That's a little confusing.
Yeah. Erica Kirk will take the helm at Turning Point USA. I guess the details of that will be worked out, but there's a lot of people pushing for influence there. And when Fox News played her statement, a lot of people pointed out inconsistencies with the video, her mouth not matching up with the sound, the movement of her mouth not matching with the audio, and just other things in the video that made it look like it was either an AI video or a video that had been edited with AI, which now that the question is even out there, it raises the question of how much we can believe from what we're shown on the screen. Now that we know we live in a world where AI
is given many tasks.
Yeah. And it can be used to like the safeguards that are on.
Even if it's not nefarious, how accurate is it still?
Right. Well, and for the AI that we have access to, there's safeguards in there. There's certain things I can't tell my AI to do. I can't tell it to generate the image of a check. It won't do it. If I tell it to, it'll tell me that it's illegal and it can't do it. But, you got to wonder, what is an AI without those safeguards? What can it do for you? What's the government? What can the government's AI do for them?
Guaranteed it doesn't have a governor on it.
I guarantee it doesn't have those kind of safeguards. So, I mean, with everything going on with this shooting, it's hard to tell much truth out of all the stuff the FBI is telling us. We got the weird thing with Kash Patel and the others with their reference to 33, their weird Masonic reference.
Yeah.
We caught him in less than 36 hours, 33 to be precise.
I did a little bit of research on the Masonic meeting of 33, and supposedly there's 13 or 33 different degrees of Scottish Rite that allow someone to become a master. So once you've reached 33 degrees, you've become a master, and anything beyond that is masterful.
Yep.
So that's what I gathered from the internet.
Usually it's something they do, I believe, as almost like a signature. It's their calling card to say, hey, this is a Masonic operation. So if you could go back to look at COVID videos of when COVID was coming out, everywhere it was popping up throughout the country. The local news would report 33 new cases, 33 new deaths, everywhere. And it was just weird that it was always 33.
I saw a bunch of hats on Charlie Kirk's merch table where he was speaking, and they all had the number 47 on it. Supposedly, the internet says that it was his homage to Trump being the 47th president.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if there's a deeper meaning to that as well. I think it has to do with the Masonic symbolism of the Pythagoras theorem, maybe?
Well, you've got to go
if it's a Masonic message, I don't know.
You got to go kind of into numerology if you do that, and
okay,
then
what's the meaning of? Because numerology, you break every letter has a numeric value.
Mm-hmm.
Then you add all those values up, and then you break them down into a single digit. So, like 47 would equal 13, and then you break down the 13
And
to
13's
4.
13. Well, 13's the important Masonic number. That's the one that it breaks
13
down.
is,
to.
yeah, okay.
Yep.
Hey guys, quick note to add. I realized after listening to this again when I was editing it that 4 plus 7 is actually 11. But the conversation still centered around 13, and Freemasonry is accurate. So we're going to leave it in. Enjoy the rest of the show.
And you got 13 3 times, but 13's the other important number. So if they're trying to say there was symbolism in that image, but I don't know. I try not to read too much into that because it's like, well, there's Trump hats everywhere. There's lots of Trump hats. So how could that be a display? You would have to make sure that image is, there was other angles you could have taken a picture from there. So if we keep seeing that image pushed, yes, that image can be seen as all this Masonic symbolism, but I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah.
Are they trying to say that it almost seems like with that they're insinuating that Kirk was a Mason and that maybe Kirk is in on whatever is going on there?
Well, I think that's quite likely. I saw something of how Kash Patel sends off Kirk's soul to Valhalla, right? At the end of his statement. And supposedly there's an island, Goat Island, that has either resort or area called Valhalla.
It's in New Zealand.
In New Zealand, yes. And, if somebody were to... I'm not saying that this actually happened, and it's very... my condolences to anybody that's suffered through this, but if it is a hoax and you aren't allowed to be in the general public anymore, you would probably want to go to a deserted island somewhere or a resort that is quite remote, or go live underground with the rest of the elites and, live out the rest of your days that way.
I've got to find this Goat Island I feel like this is it, but I'm trying to see. I guess I got to see the photo of Tyler Robinson with Goat Island. Tyler Robinson. But why would they put that in front of us? Why would they put it right in front of us?
Valhalla?
Of the image of it right on his computer screen. If you're trying to send someone away.
That was an interesting point too. There was a picture, an aerial picture, satellite view of the island, Goat Island, which has the Valhalla on it.
But yeah, just a weird coincidence. It was a weird statement from the head of the FBI to say anyway. To say we have the watch, and then make a statement about Valhalla, and maybe the internet is reaching when we're drawing some connection of saying, hey, they released this photo of Tyler Robinson, and on his computer background behind him is this place called Goat Island, where you happen to have both a spot called the Coastal Lookout, which you could see, hey, maybe that's the watch. And then you have Valhalla Danish House. What are the odds that there would be a picture of a place called Valhalla?
I don't know. I think it was intentional.
I've gone through a couple of different scenarios in my mind of what in the world they could be up to here. But one thing I feel like for certain is that the events of the last week, Charlie Kirk, the unfortunate murder in Charlotte, and just the outrageous decisions that come out of Washington, I think that either our government or some other government, some powerful forces out there would like to see chaos in America. They would like to see people in the streets, and I think they're waiting on us to give them an excuse to do martial law. I think they're trying everything they can to just pit people against each other. Like if you read through those texts, and that we don't get any date or timestamp on. And the one thing that I can clearly see there is they threw meat in for both sides to find something to go after the other. We've got this, since Trump got into office, my dad has been pretty diehard MAGA, as if his lover wouldn't know his parents who live just down the street's political beliefs. So they throw that in. That way, one side can say, "See, it's the left. See, it's this," and then they throw in all the rest of this craziness just to get people at each other's throats, I believe.
What about the book that was supposedly released, The Shooting of Charlie Kirk,
Published
on 9/9, the day before the shooting of Charlie Kirk?
Now, Amazon just said that was just a mistake.
And then they claim it was a mistake, but the metadata still shows that it was still published on 9/9.
Yeah, and the description for that book, the synopsis and the description of it describes not the killing of Charlie Kirk, but a shooting that he survives, which is interesting. So it makes you wonder, is this an operation that went wrong?
Maybe. Well, how do the details in that book line up with what actually happened, I wonder, too?
I haven't seen that anyone has been able to actually see the contents of the book. Only, how they, maybe I'm using the wrong word. I think it's a synopsis where you put on the back or like a short summary of the book. That's the only thing people have been able to see because Amazon pulled it. So, but people were able to see that because that was listed as like part of the description. But it describes it as him surviving and how America responded in a
Even
positive
if it was
way.
released the day after.
It's still, it takes time to get something to go through Amazon. So how in
Or
the
even
world
published.
Yeah, how in the world? And you can get something published in a day, but how'd you write it and go through all those steps and get it through Amazon? All of it. So it makes it clear that it seems like this was a pre-planned event. And where that takes my mind is, if this is a pre-planned event, it's not an event that happens in a vacuum. And if this is the kind of events you have on the agenda, I don't think stability is what you have in mind.
No.
So
No.
yeah, and I hope that we all can resist the oldest trick in the book from the elite. They want to see peasants fight peasants, and let's just not do it.
What about the cheering dude? There's just more and more weird shit.
What a story from that guy. And I mean, at first, everybody thought you got this guy in the crowd who, as soon as Charlie Kirk is shot,
stands up and cheers.
Yeah, and you can tell
while everybody else is cowering for their lives.
Now, supposedly, I've heard others who were there come out and speak, but I don't know what to make of that because it's obvious there were a lot of people who knew each other in that crowd. But supposedly, he was a fan of Charlie Kirk, and he shouts USA, USA to inspire confidence to the crowd. Well, people thought it was real suspicious that this guy, there was two reactions. Some people thought, hey, it's despicable. This guy seems like he's cheering and happy. And there were other people who said, hey, this is suspicious that he's not afraid, that even if he didn't like Charlie Kirk, when the shot rings out, how do you know that there's not going to be more shots?
I thought you said he was a fan of Charlie Kirk.
He says he was a fan.
Why would you cheer when somebody that you support gets shot?
Right. But he said it was to inspire the crowd so they wouldn't be afraid. That's what he said.
It doesn't make sense whatsoever.
Right. Well, to me, it seems like he's probably saying he's a fan because he doesn't want people to go after him for, finding glee in murder. But he then goes, since everybody was asking questions about, well, why wasn't he afraid? Shouldn't he have been afraid and ducked like everyone else? Did he have some sort of knowledge that would let him know he's not in danger? And so then he decides to get to the internet and speak out about it. And when he speaks, it made it just so much worse. He comes out and he says, we learn from his talk that he is a former soldier. And he says that when he heard the loud sound, he thought it might have been a firework. So he turns around and looks. And so we're supposed to believe this former soldier doesn't know the sound of gunfire. And when he turns around and doesn't see a firework, he then realizes it must be a gunshot. So he instinctively jumps up and yells, USA, USA, USA to the crowd to inspire confidence. And so the security team could get out, is what he said, which I'm not sure what to make of that. Which it almost makes it sound like he's part of some bigger organization that was there, The whole thing, just him making his response drew more suspicion and made it look like there's something there with this guy. And another one that I hadn't had a chance to say to you yet, is, do you know there's some speculation out there now that Tyler Robinson, and this is an angle I think the government might try to go with, whether it's true or not, that Tyler Robinson was part of a political network of violent extremists with the Democratic Socialists of America. And there's this guy, Destiny, who's a big political commentator. I don't know if you've heard of him, this guy on this side. Apparently, right after it happened, one of his callers, because he was part of a network, Destiny is part of a network with the guy who was asking the question. So, they were asking the question about mass shootings
and trans shooters and whatever.
Yep.
Moments before he was shot.
The exact moment. As soon as that question gets asked, shot. So that guy is part of an organization that goes around, and they kind of follow Charlie around the country and talk to him and debate and that sort of thing. Well, Destiny's part of that organization too, and he gets a call from this other girl right after it happens, and she says, did you see what happened? And she says, we're fucked, we're so fucked. And he's like, well, what do you mean? You mean the left, right? And then he shuts her up real fast and says, I'll message you on Discord. But she was saying, no, us. So it almost seeming to imply that, not that they were involved in planning or anything, but could they have been in some sort of online chat group where somebody made a statement that they didn't take seriously, that they thought was a joking statement or something like that? That's some of the speculation out there, that others might have been aware of chatter and not taking it seriously. And now that's going to give the government the green light to go full totalitarian fascist on whatever group they decide is the enemy.
Yeah, maybe somebody took advantage of that joke they made. Said, oh, well, we can kind of pin this on them now.
Yeah. And there's, don't want to get too into the politics of it. And, but, even for my politics, and I'm right wing, some of this, the responses I'm seeing them getting ready to do don't look good to me. It looks like some classic fascist playbook stuff. And so everybody, I think, in the country should be watching and guarding against it,
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's plenty of funky shit going on, I guess you could say.
Yeah. How did the Nazis do it when they burned down the Reichstag and claimed it was terrorists? They've already gotten us in this country, both parties, to broadly expand what a terrorist is, So, and I think what they want to do is they want to get us to the point where we see our neighbor as a terrorist.
Yeah.
Or as a potential terrorist.
That's what you do when you want the population to control itself.
Mm-hmm.
Pit it against each other.
Yep. But yeah, whatever's going on there is far from over. And then, of course, there's speculation out there that Israel might have had something to do with it, or maybe they are just taking advantage of the aftermath.
Yeah, there was a statement that Charlie Kirk made that I saw in a video, was a controversial remark about the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. And he was very careful about how he said it, but it was still very opinionated about somebody else's motive.
Well, and a lot of people have come out in recent days to clarify his position as they understood it, that he was not a fan of Bibi Netanyahu, and he was starting to question this war in Israel and whether an intentional genocide was going on. So, the fishy thing for me is that less than 2 minutes after he was shot, as this news is organically spreading throughout America, Bibi Netanyahu is tweeting his prayers for Charlie Kirk. And, I can imagine, and, Donald Trump was the first one to tweet and say anything about it. And that one bothers me as well. But I can imagine a scenario where somebody runs up and says, Mr. President, this just happened in Utah. And then he responds, I can imagine that. But it's harder for me to imagine a foreign leader being that, having his finger on the pulse of what's happening in America, so much so that you could have your tweet out 2 minutes after this man gets shot. You had to open your phone. You had to think about what you were going to write and write it and send it. It almost gives the impression that they were waiting, that they almost like knew it was about to happen and were waiting to respond. You know, and then the other thing that bothers me with all this is the video of this horrific deed. And I want to add to it, not just this deed, but, you know, we had the Charlie Kirk shooting and this video of the stabbing in Charlotte. Both of those videos circulated online, and nobody's algorithm stopped it. These videos circulated online for children to see, for anybody to see, for, you know, 6 and 7-year-olds on their phone to scroll through and watch someone get stabbed in the neck, sitting on this bus or train in Charlotte, or to watch this man take a bullet to the neck. Now, shortly after the Charlie Kirk shooting, the videos have now been they're harder to get to online. So they have seemingly turned on the floodgates to stop those from going out. But I want to know, why did they let it circulate? Why did they let either one circulate? And that's what makes me feel like there are forces trying to push us into chaos in this country, because they didn't have to let it circulate, but they wanted everybody to see that.
Again, I'll say that we see what they want us to see. Mm-hmm. And the big question is, why do they want us to see that?
Why do they want us to see this? You know, to me, the obvious answer is, well, they want us to feel the emotions that come with seeing this, you know, and those aren't good things. So you just got to really just question these people with why in the world they're letting this stuff circulate online.
Well, I'm sure there'll be more to come soon. I think now maybe we should talk about our sponsors. We got a couple of sponsors doing some affiliate marketing. One of which is Shimmerwood Beverages. It's a CBD-infused beverage. It's award-winning seltzers. Combine full-spectrum CBD with natural fruit shrubs, delivering a refreshing, stress-relieving drink that eases tension and promotes relaxation. Enjoy an exclusive discount with my promo code at shimmerwood.com. You get 30% off when you use our promo code of DTL2025. You can see pop up in our feed right now as you're listening. You can just click on that and it'll take you right to the website. When you buy something, we get a 15% commission. So please help us out. We need money because we are poor. Nobody is really paying us to do this. We do this because we enjoy doing it. And I hope you guys enjoy listening to us as well. Fun stuff we got here.
We definitely need those drinks to relax with everything that we gotta, you know, watch in this movie that is America Today. You know, there's another one of our sponsors makes some pretty great drinks I enjoy. Good Feels, they make their cannabis infused seltzers. So each drink is high quality, natural ingredients, clean and consistent experience as you're drinking them. You know, it's perfect for going out, gatherings at home, or just unwinding after a long day. So Good Feels' brand mission is to redefine relaxation through their innovative cannabis seltzers. So you can also use our promo code DTL2025 to get your savings there. And
what do you get? 20% off on the cannabis infused? We also get the 15% as well from any purchase you make there.
That's right. Yeah, 20% off. Just use that promo code DTL2025, and you can click the banner on your screen to go check out their many THC infused beverages. So quality evident in every sip.
Yeah, check it out for us, guys. Let us know what you think. We are going to try them firsthand here this week as soon as they finally ship us their product.
We'll let you know what we think.
We'll let you know what we think, and yeah, it's fun stuff.
Well, and we move on to some lighter topics and go back to our continuing discussion of pyramids. We had a different angle to consider than we had before.
Is that pyramids are cymatics as well?
Or the idea that maybe are they dampening?
Yeah, so I ran across a video a little while back that this guy describes pyramids, if you look at them from above, the structure of them resemble a cymatic, a very specific cymatic. And it kind of ties into the fact that maybe since there's so many pyramids in so many various different places, that the pyramids or other structures of ancient architecture or places of worship were meant to dampen certain energies of the earth, which kind of makes me think, well, maybe way back before the beginning of time, that these structures were built to make the earth more habitable if they are dampeners. So maybe there was mass amounts of earthquakes and digestion going on within the center of the earth, and this was meant to calm everything down to make it more habitable on the surface,
to stabilize this planet. Maybe that's part of the question that science is unable to answer. Whether you're of why Earth is this miracle of life. Maybe that's the why. Maybe that's part of terraforming, is you have to stabilize the system, stabilize the frequency and the vibrations in order for life to prosper. I also think about it as, hey, if it's dampening vibrations and resonance, maybe it's not natural vibrations and resonance it's dampening. Is there machinery operating underground?
Oh, possibly.
That it's stabilizing?
There's pyramids built underground.
And, it
meant to possibly generate energy or tap into the energy that's already there.
Yeah. Or maybe it goes that far down to absorb the shocks from whatever is happening down there. I mean, how do you even build something to go that far down? We can't. It's beyond our expertise. They went below the water table without flooding what's under it, which is interesting to do. You've got this
like pyramids of Giza, or
the pyramids of Giza. We know they go below the water table, but what's underneath them doesn't appear to be flooded.
They went through the water table
somehow without just having the water go all the way down. So you're able to seal off where the water is and keep going. So, and I believe there was a temple we were looking at in Southeast Asia, where the idea of temples maybe meant to dampen resonance came from. Borobudur, if I said that right. Let's see. Well, essentially, there's this temple, and it's exactly like you're saying, where it seems to match up with cymatics perfectly. So it's not, like showing not perfect circles, but when you overlay it with a cymatic image, it seems to show that perfectly. And the guy in the video then goes on to suggest that it is actually stabilizing vibrations instead of amplifying and sending them out.
Yeah, and an opposing wave will dampen any sound or vibration. It's called a node, I believe. There's certain points in a room where the sound reverberates, and you get next to no sound in those nodes because the sound is the reflection of the sound from multiple surfaces is crossing right there, and it cancels each other out.
And this temple is apparently built on a volcanically active fault line on the planet. So yeah, are these temples and things, are they sealing the chaos deep down in the earth for us?
I believe it.
I could see that.
I'm into all this weird stuff.
Yeah, that makes plenty enough sense.
It says Codex Esoterica.
Yes,
clever.
A cool name to draw in people like us to see it there. So, we have that, and we have the world's largest bell there, and maybe the bells go hand in hand with these spots as, hey, if they're meant to dampen and absorb all this resonance, all this vibration, if it's really shaken, then the bell will ring, and you'll know that something's off. Maybe the bell's the alarm system for it.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't explain why you need giant bells. You could do that with smaller bills.
It depends upon the size of the wave, I think. If you're trying to get a seismic wave, which is a massive, really large, elongated wave, I think you're not going to hear it on a little bell.
You need a big bell to get that vibration.
Bell to get it to amplify. So yeah, maybe it was exactly that. Bells, from what we know, were used as alarm systems.
Yeah.
For like Tibetan monks and whatnot. If there was an issue, they would ring that giant bell, and then the next guy down the road would ring their giant bell, and they would get a message a warning to whomever.
Well, and they also believed the bells had healing properties as well.
Yeah, the reverberation, the frequency of however many hertz the bell was tuned to.
So, and I'm still a believer that somehow these temples are harnessing resonance and vibrations in a way that's meant to be beneficial as well. But you know, if the temples and pyramids were just designed to, you know, deliver some sort of wave or resonance to the people inside of it, then you would expect that these buildings would still be occupied by the elite today. They wouldn't be sitting around empty. Or maybe deep down underground they are occupied by the elite, you know?
Yeah.
Well, other than that one, we had, there was one other thing that we were discussing shortly before the episode, Antarctica and Operation High Jump.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about this again.
So, you know, we've talked about Antarctica a little bit in previous episodes. There's all the scientific bases down there. There's the talk of potential pyramids down there. You know, famously Buzz Aldrin went down there, and he got onto Twitter and said what's down there is pure evil, and he said we're all in danger. You know, so he went down there and had a heart attack.
Yeah.
So at the end of World War II, the Nazi Germany went down to Antarctica and they set up what they called New Schwabenland. They set up a base down there, and there's a lot of speculation about what went on down there with the Nazis. Some speculate that Hitler and the high-ranking Nazis escaped to live out their days there in Antarctica. At the end of the war, we did an operation to send in American troops as part of Operation High Jump. In Operation High Jump, Operation High Jump and Operation Windmill, 1946 and 1947, and Operation Windmills 47 and 48, were, let's see, the official narrative says we sent 4,700 men, 13 ships, and 33 aircraft, with the main purpose was to prepare for and practice techniques of cold weather warfare.
Hold on. 47,000 men. 47. 13 ships.
33 aircraft.
33 aircraft.
I was hoping you would catch it too. It's
What?
we
We just got done talking about the significance of these numbers.
those exact numbers.
Yes.
All Masonic numbers. It's all a big Masonic operation, whatever they were doing down there. So personally, I don't believe the numbers they're giving us. But what we can say with certainty is we sent a lot of troops.
Yeah.
We sent a lot of troops down there. But it's like 47, 13, 33. It's like, this is, they're giving us code words there. So these operations were supposed to just train for Arctic warfare and also extending the sovereignty of the United States. So they make it sound like that's nothing, but that is a very nice way of saying go conquer some land, extend the sovereignty of the U.S., and we know the Germans were there. So, and our troops and our ships limped back. Let me just ask ChatGPT here. How many? Okay. So the expedition that was supposed to last 6 to 8 months was cut short in February after only 2 months due to worsening weather, logistical strain, and ice conditions, is what they say. All 13 ships returned to the U.S., some directly, others had to stop at other ports for repairs and food and supplies. The force was decommissioned immediately after, but the Navy recorded several deaths, at least 3 confirmed, 2 in a plane crash, and another from accident. Some sources say the total fatality count was around 10 to 12. So, but I don't know that we can even trust that. Why are there any deaths if it's just a training exercise? And, we know they sent that much in. If you listen to what Admiral Richard E. Byrd said about it, he gave an interview right after. There's many that claim that not all the ships returned, and that the early termination was due to combat losses against Nazis down there. So, and the claim is that when they went down there are all these stories of flying saucers coming out of the water, coming out of the ice, and that they essentially went down there and the allegation that the Nazis had made some sort of negotiation with aliens or non-human entities for their weapons. The allegation is that down there, the Nazis had basically set up shop with either non-human entities or in the abandoned ruins of an ancient city or an alien city, and set up shop under the ice there, and that they could still be operating there. Like throughout our lifetime, we've heard all the stories of ice melting in Antarctica, and there has been significant ice melting in Antarctica, different shelves and that sort of thing. But what's interesting about Antarctica is even though there's been significant melting in some spots, the ice is growing in other spots. So there's, something phenomenal is happening under the ice in Antarctica to make conditions where you can have stuff like Blood Falls, where everything's melting out, and other spots where the ice seems to be growing and expanding.
Right.
But, since shortly after these operations, the U.S. then began a series of different operations where we did nuclear explosions near the South Pole, where we did high-altitude nuclear tests. From a lot of flat Earth believers think that what happened is when we went down there, they found where the firmament meets the Earth. It's why they had some plane crashes and that sort of thing. And then they wanted to test this boundary or barrier and did their nuclear explosions. But, when I think about the idea of a secret Nazi base down there, and then you think about Buzz Aldrin going down and saying, it's pure evil down there, it makes you wonder, was there a Nazi base down there? It would be the perfect location for flying saucers to come out of. And, world leaders from across the Western world, and really just across the developed world, seem to go to Antarctica and the North Pole before taking office. Like you can pick a world leader and Google their Antarctic trip. Before taking office, they all seem to go down. And so, it begs the question, are they going to get their marching orders? Are they being let in on some secret before they take office? What's so special about down there,
I kind of want to go.
Yeah, there's supposedly these warm, ice-free caves, and Admiral Byrd, he claimed to have seen land larger than North America beyond the ice, and when he was down there for that operation. He said more coal than all of North America is what he said. Just resources waiting to be taken.
Yeah, that would explain why a lot of disbelief in global warming, or that we're scarcity on resources and whatnot.
Yeah, and we know there's got to be more to Antarctica. We've talked about in previous episodes the old maps that seem to show Antarctica without ice. We've got the Piri-Reis map. I hope I'm saying that right. Piri-Reis map that shows a mountain range in Antarctica that no one in the 1400s should have been aware of, because those mountains would have been, as they are now, buried under tons of ice and snow. And then beyond that, the waters approaching Antarctica are so vicious, it would seem that the only way they could know that there was a mountain range there in that exact location where they drew it on that map is if there was knowledge of what was there before there was ice.
Yeah, there was some interesting map that was a fresco that I saw just the other day. It showed Antarctica with no ice on it.
So, and Admiral Byrd, the U.S. admiral who conducted that operation, he claimed or he believed that the next world war would be fought over Antarctica, would be fought because of the poles, that the South Pole would be the reason for the next world war.
Yeah, it definitely could be if there's unlimited land grab there.
Yeah, or if there's a powerful force that is set up shop there.
Well, I'm definitely a firm believer that there is something going on there, and we were made to believe something entirely different than what's actually going on there. I think it's really interesting that those numbers come up in the description.
Yeah, that is, isn't that something? You know, especially in the synchronicity of it. It almost feels like we are
The
universe itself.
is pointing us in the direction of discovery.
Wants us to, yeah. So let's see. I'm just gonna pose that to
The 47,000 troops and 13 ships and 33. What was it?
4,700 men, 13 ships, 33 aircraft. Yeah, and it was so. But we had for the Charlie Kirk 47 on the hat, 47 president. You know, you can do the 7 plus 4 to get your 13, and then the 33 hours of how long it took them to find the killer. Let's see what ChatGPT thinks about my suggestion. So, yeah, 33rd degree is the highest honorary degree in Scottish Rite Freemasonry. 13 ships, 13 is a number with biblical, esoteric, and Masonic resonance. 13 original U.S. colonies. You know, you can go on and on with that. So 47 linked to geometry and Masonic lore. The 47th problem of Euclid is iconic in Freemasonry. And the zeros, it just becomes a neat round figure. So,
Yeah, I see 13 as a recurring important number because a lot of things are broken down into 12.
mm-hmm.
Like 12 major religions. There's 12 of these, 12 that. But 13 is the collective of all 12.
Yes.
That's what the 13 is the governance of all of those.
The 13 is the 12 put together.
Yeah.
They are, you know, as
Like
the one.
Voltron.
Yeah.
Voltron has come together with all of his parts. That's 13.
So, and Richard Byrd, Admiral Byrd, was a Freemason. You know, and with Antarctica, a long time ago, I used to think to myself that if there was ever and this was before I was a flat earther, I used to think to myself that Antarctica would be the likely location of any Atlantis. If you've got this spot on the bottom of the world that's filled with ice, that didn't used to be filled with ice, and the story of Atlantis is in a single day and night, it's overtaken by water. Who's to say that the water isn't frozen? So I used to think that it would be the, you know, perfect location of saying, no, it would be, if there's an Atlantis, it would be under there. And if there's any spot, you know, if we're living on a ball floating in space, if there's any spot that would match it, that's not a smaller island, Antarctica is that landmass, you know, that, you know, imagine a world where it's not frozen. And of course, we imagine it as being on the bottom of the world. But if it was the inhabited area and not frozen at one point in time, our perspective of the map would look different. And you can almost imagine it as central.
Mm-hmm.
If you're imagining a world where most of the other continents are wild and unpopulated and civilization's there.
Yeah, it all depends on how you draw the map.
Right. Of course, now I don't think I think it's the perimeter of our realm more likely now. You know, there's just so much weird stuff with it. You know, the British, they spend the majority of their naval expense patrolling the shores of Antarctica, which I find just really weird. And, you know, we're supposed to just believe they just really care about the environment so much. They just want to make sure nobody's making any money off of Antarctica or anything.
I think they're trying to make sure nothing alive comes flowing out of Blood Falls.
Yeah. Well, I would want to hope that if they are lying to us, it's the scenario where they're lying because they're protecting us from some great evil, and not that they are the great evil, you know?
Right. Well, we've been saying that. I guess a lot of people have been saying that the Anunnaki are going to return.
Yeah.
And we're nearing that point in time that they will return. And I wonder if they're preparing us for that.
Personally, that's my belief, that they're getting us all ready for what I think is going to be a fake alien invasion. But I do think they're getting us ready for that, and they're just putting chaos out there before we get it. So we were before the episode, we were talking, and sort of what led us to this Antarctica thing as our conversation just winded. But we were talking about the impact craters. You brought up how there's about 200 craters on the planet that are, according to science, are from meteor or asteroid impacts, even though there's no meteor found or asteroid found in any of those sites. And they all, it doesn't look like you would expect. It looks
like
in the
a
movie.
Completely vertical.
Perfectly vertical at every single spot.
Which relates to somebody related it to 200 fallen angels, because there's 200 craters. And there's 200 spiritual leaders that meet every year. Where is it?
Somewhere in Turkey. Let's see.
And yeah, so the fallen angels have something to do with these craters.
Yeah, global faith leaders.
Istanbul.
World Council Meeting of Religions in Istanbul. So but of course, there's more than 200 people there total. And so yeah, they're trying to get lost in the semantics there. So, there's a lot of what some people call fallen angels, some people call Anunnaki from the Sumerian mythology. So, but it does seem like, even though there's different interpretations of whatever they were or whatever they are, it does seem like the different groups are talking about the same thing. When, the fallen angels from the Bible, the Anunnaki and Sumerian mythology, it seems like they're describing the same beings, and I think the six-fingered giants that we've talked about in previous episodes, I think those are their descendants, or offspring, are somehow genetically related to them. But, when talking about the craters and everything, one thing it made me think of is Mount Herman. So in the biblical story of the fallen angels coming down, they didn't fall, they all came down on one spot. So, the craters all around the world kind of don't match that narrative exactly, but the Bible could just say that they came down and then they gathered in one spot. They could mean that. But where they supposedly came down and gathered and then made a pact together to basically all say, hey, we're in this together, and, nobody's going to turn back on this. We're in it forever, is Mount Herman. And Mount Herman is a mountain in the Middle East, and it is, surprisingly, a UN-ran location. So UN Mount Herman is the world's highest permanently manned United Nations position, is at the summit of the mountain. The United Nations runs it, staffed by peacekeepers to monitor the area between Syria and Israel. So of all the spots where they could go, I do find it, and it's completely closed off to the regular public. I find it very interesting.
Yeah, it looks pretty remote, huh?
Yeah. But of all the spots you could go, you happen to set up shop where supposedly the fallen angels came down and made a pact to forever try to
I think
be the enemy of humanity.
Something there, yeah.
Yeah. And let's see. I want to get to Google Maps
underground
of this
facility there?
Well, they wouldn't tell us,
Well, there's definitely a shack there. But is that the stairwell to the underground facility?
Let's see. Mount Herman.
Oh, you're going to look it up on Google Maps, the superimposed picture we're made to believe?
Yeah. There it is. Okay. And the UNDF position. So we got... But yeah, just a weird spot for the UN to want to set up shop, And, of course, there's old temples there and that sort of thing, but it is... supposedly, biblically, for the world's three major religions, they teach that this is the location where fallen angels came down and made a pact to conspire against mankind forever and ever until our demise,
Yeah.
And the logo of Mount Herman is used in things like Paramount's logo. That mountain pictured with Paramount is Mount Herman. So, of course, Paramount tries to claim that they would never say that their logo is supposed to depict the angels coming down, but the fallen angels coming down on this mountain. But they've got Mount Herman, and you have the stars that we've all seen it in the beginning of a show or movie. They come down and gather around that mountain in their logo. So like you were saying, you got the 200 religious leaders. There seems to be a lot of connections where our leaders, our so-called secular leaders, seem to be very into the darker parts of old religion.
Yeah.
It's like, are they preparing us for the return of whatever these forces were that are mentioned in these old religions that aren't around anymore? Personally, I think they are. I think they have been slowly psychologically manipulating the population to prepare us for the return of whatever this will be. To selling us stuff like Star Trek and all these things that depict a future where we can coexist with these aliens who are just like us. But what if it's not that? What if, whatever these beings are, they were here before and our ancestors ran them off, and they're just trying to trick us into letting them back? You know?
Yeah. I think there's multiple different species and visitors and this and that. I saw something about the Draconians. Like, the Draconians originally owned the planet. We came along, ran everybody off, but said, you guys can stay if you go underground and remain unseen. So then they started combining their DNA with humans and became shapeshifters. And so long as they are not seen still, they can stay. So if they take human form, they can still roam among us or stay underground. That's part of the shapeshifter sort of thing.
Of basically there being...
or skinwalkers, or...
I find that interesting because it almost has a theological component when people talk about other non-human entities from a theological standpoint, or from thinking of it like something coming from another dimension. It's often described, even in our movies and shows, as there being like a set of rules that if beings from another dimension or another realm interact with humans, that there are rules about what they are, how much they can interfere.
Yeah.
And we put that in our art and our literature a lot. But one thing, another kind of literary connection I wanted to point out with the whole story of the fallen angels is, are you a Lord of the Rings fan at all?
Yeah.
Have you watched the Amazon show Rings of Power?
No, I haven't had a chance to watch that one.
So I've seen that, or at least what they have out for it already. And in the show, you have who everybody on the internet thinks is Gandalf. It appears to be Gandalf. And when he first enters the world, he doesn't know who he is. He kind of has to figure out who he is. But he comes down as like an asteroid falling from the sky. It's a ball of fire, comes down and hits the ground, but it's not a rock. It's this magical being who's been sent with a purpose, And now Tolkien his work was greatly influenced by his Christian belief and his study of theology. And I just find it is interesting that that's how he chose to depict the wizards entering his world, that they just fell from the sky.
Well, yeah, magical being would be very closely related to either a wizard or an angel, possibly.
Right. And they're not necessarily immortal in his world, like they can die and be vanquished, but they seem to have more knowledge than the regular people, So I thought that one was just a little interesting, Yeah, whatever these other beings are, I think all the stories are all talking about the same thing. The fallen angel, the Anunnaki, in Egyptian mythology, they have their story of the flood, and you have the builders, the sages, and you have these other beings that were there. And in the very beginning, the world, in the Egyptian creation story, the world being created first, there you have this endless ocean, and the gods make an island first. And this island, this perfect island, is where civilization starts and everything starts. And then everything is flooded. And then after the flood, some of the beings don't return. After the flood, some of the beings that were there before the flood aren't there anymore. And they're supposedly the ones who built the great buildings and were super knowledgeable. So It's like, is that the Anunnaki? Were they there before the flood? And if they were, if they were there before some flood or cataclysmic event, why did they go away after that event and we didn't?
I don't know.
You
There's
know?
so many unknowns.
Right. Well, like if you take the biblical perspective, it's they went away because God wanted to wipe them out and not us, and that's why we survived. But if it's not that, where did they go, and why were we left after them? I've seen some things where some people speculate that the Anunnaki are our ancestors, that they came here and mixed their DNA with some native creature on Earth. That way their species could continue on through us. Then that would make sense with why they would go away after some disaster. Or if you go with that scenario where they're our ancestors, did they have an enemy? Did an enemy come for them? And if they have some enemy out there in the galaxy and the universe.
Maybe they were fighting the Draconians who went underground, and they created the mud flood to cover up all their holes
To cover
trap them
everything up.
underground.
Yeah, well, I would bet probably more, I'd have my money on under the ocean instead of under the ground. For if there's beings on this earth with us.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's plenty of other intelligent civilization under the ocean or under the crust somewhere. The deepest ocean doesn't even come close to how thick the Earth's upper mantle or crust is.
Right.
Supposedly, I think Neil deGrasse Tyson explained it this way, that the highest peak and the deepest ocean on the surface of the Earth is still 100 times more smooth than a cue ball would be if it was the same size.
Yeah, well, we've never even come close to scratching the surface of the Earth's crust. So anytime I hear scientists talk about that, I'm always like, man, it's mostly wild speculating from them. Because like as soon as we started digging down, I think the Russians dug the furthest down. Everything they found was nothing like what they expected.
Well, yeah, they said it was like gateway to hell. It was,
yeah, it got way hotter a lot sooner than they expected.
yeah.
And they found more water than they expected. I remember that article came out like a year or so ago, that there's more water underneath the Earth's, there's more water than all the oceans combined underneath the Earth's crust.
Yeah, yeah.
Which when I heard that, for me, it was just more confirmation of my flat Earth beliefs. But I'm like, well, how does that make sense on a ball floating in space? How could you have all this land, all these mountains sitting on water? Shouldn't they fall through the water? Aren't they more dense than water? Shouldn't they be drawn to the core by gravity more? But if you take the biblical worldview or the worldview of every old religion before heliocentrism, our world is sitting on like columns, on supports, basically, that's holding it up above water. But, to segue the whole fallen angels or Anunnaki, is there anything else there? The other thing we talked about earlier this week was how many old statues there are with 6 fingers and 6 toes.
Oh, yeah.
And
Why are most of the hands removed?
yeah.
And some of them heads as well.
Yeah, there's so many ancient Greek statues where it's a clean cut right at the arm. You would almost think that they intentionally made the statue that way, but no, they've been cut to look that way. So, and there's even famous statues of the Virgin Mary that show 6 fingers. And the ones I've been able to find more than anything are seemingly from the Americas of Aztec and Mayan statues and sculptures, but they have 6 fingers.
But it fits the narrative of the godlike creatures that were giants that had 6 fingers.
Right.
Because they memorialize them in stone, a statue, and all of those have 6 fingers.
It's hard to tell.
It's weird to look at, too.
Well, our eye doesn't even normally catch it because it's not something we would think is going to be there. We've got like old Buddha statues with 6 fingers. So it's like, were these beings around back then that people deified? Are these the descendants of fallen angels? Are these the descendants of another species that was once here? And is that why they were deified? And where did they go? Are they still here? Are they just hidden now?
Yeah, I feel like Jesus, Buddha, all those major theological figures, we're quite possibly a descendant of, the greater species of our past, six-fingered giants, or that part of the DNA with greater knowledge of everything and the ability to manipulate things that would look like magic to us because we've never considered the ability to do something like that.
Right.
Or not even magic, just something that a deity would be able to do.
And, if they're still around and in hiding, to me, it screams there's something nefarious there. If they're good and here to help, I don't understand why you would go away and be in hiding or have.
I can give you a reason: crucifixion.
But if you're so much more powerful than people and your overall intent is good, why would people want to come after you?
Because there's plenty of powers that want to remain in power.
Yeah, but if they're so much more powerful, able to build things like the pyramids and stuff like that, are they just? Do we outnumber them so much that we pose that much of a threat?
Maybe they just got tired of getting beat up.
Yeah, could be.
I don't know. It's interesting. I want to know, did I lose a bet last week?
Let's find out.
Or the week before, whenever that happened?
Let's jump
September
back to
9th, I believe.
September 9th. Pope makes unexpected statement about non-human souls. Mostly just a call for unity.
I thought I remember him. He made some sort of statement, but it wasn't specifically. Guess I lost a bet.
He owed me a shell. Let's see. And then we're upcoming on our equinox surge prediction of a surge in occult interest as a rare planetary alignment occurs. And, in previous weeks, I've said that I think we're going to have more than a surge in occult interest. I fear that there being some event. So the day before this, September 22nd, this coming Monday, is the Feast of Trumpets. It's the Jewish New Year. So it's a big deal in Israel. There's going to be lots and lots of trumpets sounding, and it's a big deal religiously for them to mark the new year. So I'm still very much expecting something to happen in our world, either out of the Middle East or somewhat related to Israel on the 22nd or 23rd, to coincide with the planetary alignment. And I think the world leaders, just like we see in old ancient movies, I think they look at planetary alignments and stuff like that to time their actions, to try to take advantage of the power of these celestial alignments.
Yeah. Well, what's anything else coming up? I wonder, Simpsons. Any Simpsons predictions that came true, I wonder.
So what they predicted, the VR headsets, we got that. The Coldplay Kiss Cam scandal. There's an episode that shows a similar scene. And Cypress Hill performing with the London Symphony Orchestra. According to ChatGPT, that's the 3 Simpson predictions that have come true this year.
Oh, there's a whole bunch of stuff coming up. September 23rd, Trump and alien truth expose, and September 29th, Trump will die of a heart attack, according to The Simpsons.
If the events we're watching aren't all happening, and I say that with great reluctance because, if these events that we've been seeing happening are really happening, and it's tragic, it's horrible to see people lose their lives, it's horrible to see the country turn neighbor against neighbor. But if all of this isn't happening the way they're telling us, and if some of it is happening just as part of a government play or operation to try to a psychological operation to get a reaction out of the public, I could easily envision Trump's death being on the agenda. Because if your goal is, as the elite or as the military, to get the American public to rile up and have chaos and have violence, that'll do it.
Yeah.
That one will do it, especially after everything that's already happened. As I was saying to you a week ago, I think sometimes events that happen are just the lead up to something else, And right now, the country feels like a powder keg, just waiting on the right event. It's almost like I feel like a fuse has been lit, and it's going somewhere. It's just not clear where that fuse leads,
Yeah, it's very interesting to see what's going to happen coming up in the next month or two.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, thanks for joining us, guys. This is Denver Theory Lab. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook. Send us a message on Gmail, denvertheorylab@gmail.com, or you can send us donations on PayPal at Denver Theory Lab. Send us any questions you may have. Send us cool stuff to look into.
Till next time.
Bye.